While being over here, Paul, obviously there's been quite a lot going on in terms of talk. This is going to be a mainly transfer focused show, to be honest with you. We've done loads on the games, and I'm sure you all watch and listen to everyone's thoughts on it. But last couple, I think it was yesterday morning, maybe the morning before. Your colleague Ian Doyle, I think he was the first person I read talking about Joe Gomez and his future. It's been widely written about since, including by yourself. So he was reportedly very, very close to joining Newcastle as part of this Anthony Gordon situation with him going the other way. Obviously, that collapsed when Newcastle made other adjustments, other sales to sort themselves out in that PSR regard. But now it appears Joe's future's uncertain. Is this just a case of a club's told a player, we were willing to let you go, and therefore the player's thinking, well, obviously I'm not like deemed as an integral part of the side. I was very, very close to being able to go and join another Premier League rival.
Possibly, yeah. It was interesting that we spoke a few weeks ago, and I think it was Luke Edwards of the Telegraph who first mentioned Joe Gomez, and at the time it just sounded a bit like, they've just sort of put that name in alongside Kwanzaa, because we knew Kwanzaa was the subject of negotiations as well, and Liverpool didn't have any plans to enter into those talks because they view him as a future England international, and I think we will see that. But obviously the Gomez stuff, there was more to it than what was initially thought. So yeah, I mean, Liverpool bid 75 million, had it all lined up with a medical in Leipzig, we believe, with Joe Gomez going the other way for 45. And I think you're going to see these types of deals a lot more often. You know, every time, sort of every June now, you're going to see a lot of these sort of almost quasi pseudo swap deals, which we've never really seen too many of them in the past, have we? I can't think of many. Remember, was it Ashley Cole and William Gallas going from Arsenal to Chelsea and sort of swapping? That's sort of the most high profile one I can think of. There's not too many others, but I think these are going to become a little bit more prominent. That would have been a huge one for Liverpool, obviously getting Gordon for essentially 35 million, but losing Gomez and being willing to lose Gomez as well is interesting. So as a result of that, he's now got plenty of interest from across the Premier League. He's aware of the interest, and he's still away, isn't he, after his England exploits, or lack of them, really. And I guess plans will be afoot to speak to Slot, Freudian slip there, Klopp, and see what's what. I don't think Liverpool will be hugely reluctant to sell him, but he has never shied away from seeing himself as a centre-back. He's played left-back more than he played centre-back last season. He's played right-back as well. He even played in centre-mid for a couple of games. So maybe at the age of 27, he might look at it and think, well, I want to go and play centre-back every week and, you know, really establish himself back in that England fold rather than just being a sort of, you know, a utility man that Gareth Southgate didn't even use.
Yeah, I was going to say, the interesting part is like loads of Premier League clubs want him, which obviously apparently and it's easy to see why, because not only is he a very good player, he does offer that versatility, he does offer that as well. I mean, that could be a huge loss for Liverpool, you know. If not for Joe Gomez last season, Liverpool could have been in really big trouble. You know, he was one of the better players. He played as many games as he's played for a long time. Like you mentioned, not too many of them are centre-back, which might be a little part of the story here. But, like, that's £45 million is a very sizable fee for a player who actually isn't first choice in any position. But what he does offer you is that absolute versatility, that key man who can, you know, if he's on your bench, you cover for left back, you cover centre back, you cover for right back,
exactly.
And a push midfield. Like that's a big piece of Liverpool's squad that they would have to replace. And even though 45 million is a substantial fee for a 27-year-old, maybe who he isn't nailed down to play any games as a first choice going forward, you would think. Yeah,
I think we've spoken a few times about Gomez, haven't we? And sort of Liverpool's plans for centre back are linked to how Slot sees him. Really, is he going to be another centre-back, or did he view him as a bit of a utility man, but obviously of a high quality? You know, he can play across the back, really, can't he? So that's huge. That really, when you've got someone who's able to do that, you know, someone who can just come in for 25 minutes and helps you out a game when you're winning, or, you know, if there are a few injuries knocking about the squad, which, as we know, do happen at Liverpool. So I think Liverpool would be in no rush to really sell him, but so you look at that and think, well, they were clearly happy to sort of enter into talks to move me on to Newcastle. So maybe I should look elsewhere. And like I say, he's never ever shied away from saying that he sees himself as a centre-back. So this could be a fairly high-profile departure, really, couldn't it, if it comes off. But see what happens when he returns to the squad, and Liverpool will be, probably already have, being fielded on inquiries for him.
I suppose I go back to the player's point of view. I'm not saying ego's involved here, because no, it's obviously more about your future. I go back to if a manager or a sporting director or whatever is willing to let you go, and we'll talk to Flip about this with Anthony Gordon later on, there must be something in your mind that goes, well, they were willing to let me go.
Yeah.
Therefore, why wouldn't I explore my options? Because I'm obviously not. Like Gerald Quinn said, it was shut down. No, he's not going. You're not having him. But actually, Joe Gomez will enter those conversations. So from a player, from his representatives, there would be something there, wouldn't there? Well, actually, these might not actually want me that much. I might be able to go somewhere else where I'm going to play right where I feel if they're going to pay £45 million for me or somewhere in those regards, they're probably going to pick me. Yeah,
definitely, 100%. You know, he could go. Let's say Mark Gay goes to Newcastle, Crystal Palace are in need of a centre back. You know, that probably ticks a few boxes on paper, doesn't it? I think it's a bit of a unique situation for Gomez because he's the longest serving player. You know, he preceded Klopp's arrival, and he's been there since 2015, so 9 years now of various roles, various sort of statuses within the squad. He's been the first choice centre back, he's been the backup right back, he's been the third choice left back, and he's been a young kid developing. He's been a first choice defender who went on to win the league. He's won a lot: Champions League, Premier League, the Cups, Club World Cup. So maybe there's a part of his thinking where he thinks, well, maybe I've done everything I need to do here and move on and play every week for another club and a bit of a change of scenery and all that type of stuff. You know, that could factor into his thinking as well. So like I say, it's going to be a really interesting few weeks on that particular score, and I think we've all been sort of expecting August to be a bit of a busy one, haven't we, or a busier one certainly for Liverpool. So I guess that fits into this.
The Newcastle thing's interesting actually, because you mentioned it looks like, according to reports, Mark Gay's potential option for Newcastle. It's strange now that is that door closed with Joe Gomez, because it was very much open. They wanted him, he was willing to go there. I know I was reading James' piece in The Athletic, he said, you know, he got as far as discussing like payment terms and wages and structure of deals and stuff like that. It feels very odd then that now maybe they've pivoted to Mark Gay. I don't know, like, is there any chance that the Newcastle thing is revived? Because that feels like a lot if they're going to already spend some money on Mark Gay as well.
Yeah, you couldn't really see them getting both, could you? Particularly with them just coming off sort of PSR issues. You're thinking, you know, this time next year, you don't really want to be in a similar situation, particularly given how desperately fraught it all was by all accounts in the last few days. Selling Minter and Anderson, and Gordon could have been on the move, and Guimaraes they had interest in him. So it all sounded a bit hectic there for Newcastle. That'll surely be one that they want to avoid again next year. But I guess, you know, Mark Gay's price tag that I've seen floating around is significantly higher than what they were going to pay for Joe Gomez. Whether there's a 30 million or 25 million difference between those two players, I'm not too sure. Gay's obviously a few years younger, England experience and all that type of stuff. But you know, if Joe Gomez plays week in, week out at centre back, like we seen last year when he came in at centre back and he played for like 3 or 4 months, he's a quality player, isn't he? And if he plays in his position week in, week out, I think he's one of England's best centre backs. So yeah, maybe, like I say, maybe there is a little bit of that thinking from him, thinking, well, I'll get to play where I want to play every week, and then, you know, I've got to give myself a huge chance to force myself back into the England reckoning beyond just being a squaddy. I
was going to say, because Mark Gay's the perfect example, really. He always told England players, and like, you know, you've got to be at Liverpool, you've got to be at Man United, you've got to be at Chelsea. I mean, it might change because obviously England are getting a new manager, but Mark Gay just played the entire tournament at centre back. He plays for Crystal Palace, you know what I mean? Like, if you go, you know, the goalkeeper with all due respect is from Everton, and you know, it's not like you're saying you have to be at a Champions League, regular Champions League playing club. So it feels like Joe, again, I don't know, you might be able to help me out, like in terms of the level of team interested, but you know, whether it's Europa League or a bit lower, that doesn't anymore seem to hinder England, or it didn't under Gareth Southgate anyway. We'll see what the new regime does, so that might play into the part as well, because sometimes you were half better being a sub for Liverpool or United to get into the England team, but now they're willing to pick players who are playing a little bit lower down in the league.